Are you trying to decide whether to rent or buy a home in Lubbock, Texas? Well, you're in the right place. Fortunately, you stumbled across my video, and today we're gonna be getting into all the reasons why you should rent or you should buy. Let's do this thing. So in order to kind of start this video off and get on a good note, and just like, it's a broad, all-encompassing thing, and obviously it caters to whatever your financial position is, and if you have the firepower to buy a house, that's great. If not, maybe renting's for you, but some people have the firepower and they choose to rent anyway. So let's just start off with some questions and try to answer those, and then get into what comes next. So we're gonna jump into just doing what the current market is doing, how that's influencing rental prices and home prices. Let me just drop into an anecdotal topic, because I own houses that I rent out in Lubbock. I've discussed this on the channel before. And I will say that houses that I've bought, just because we always talk about pricing going up, okay? So if you choose to rent, you are beholden to the powers of your landlord in what they need to set the rental price at. I've seen rental prices steadily increase in Lubbock over the past 3 years since I've been buying houses. For example, I've rented a 4-bedroom house that I've rented out for $2,200, and the year after that I rented out for $2,300. Now you might be saying, Andrew's a greedy landlord, monopoly man, whatever. Yeah, that's all good and fine, and maybe some of it's true. However, what I will say is within that time period, not only have property taxes gone up, which has changed the monthly payment that I have, property insurance in Texas has gone through the roof. So in order to keep up with the rising cost of insurance and taxes, you're gonna have to increase rents. That's what we're seeing happening on a very large scale in Texas. So that's why rents have continued to climb up. So a lot of people will say, well, I'd rather rent and then wait a little bit to buy. Well, you might wanna rent now, but the cost of the dollar now is gonna be worth more than the cost of a dollar in a year from now. So that just kind of gets us going off on market trends of, and I'm not saying that you have to spend $2,200 a month in Lubbock for a house. You don't. I mean, that's 4-bedroom, 2-bath house in Lubbock, Cooper, or Friendship ISD school districts. That's kind of the market rent for a 2,000 square foot house. You're looking at anywhere from 22 or maybe 21 to 25, 2,600, depending on the house, how new, how nice it is. And we bought most all of those houses under 300,000, by the way. Well, actually well under 300,000, so pretty decent returns. I will say, just on a macro scale, the rental market is not going anywhere. People are always, and this is why we love real estate. We love the real estate guys, is because people are always gonna have to have a roof over their heads. No matter what, they need shelter. They need food, water, shelter. Now, you could hoof it. I guess you could be homeless, and for some people that works, although I'd argue that it doesn't probably work that effectively. But that being said, you're going to always need a roof under your head. And that means a lot for renters, and it means a lot for landlords. We've talked all about the supply and demand in Texas in real estate over the past year, 2 years. That not only influences and affects the retail market, the home buying market, it drastically affects the rental market as well. Now, in the past 2 years, we have seen quite a cool down in that, because of everything going on with interest rates right now. It's definitely hard to afford a home now as opposed to 2 years ago, just because your monthly payment is through the roof. And I remember people always like looking on, if they're using Zillow or Realtor.com. I know Zillow, they call them the Zestimates, which are usually grossly wrong with home prices to buy. But there's also Zestimates on home rental prices in the market. And I have seen those in specific neighborhoods and school districts gradually trickling up. I mean, over the past 2 years, I've seen it being like the average rental price in this neighborhood is $2,000. Now, going to list the same house, the average rental price in that neighborhood would be $2,200 or would be $2,300. So you're seeing rent go up, and you've got to calculate that into the ultimate question, which we're going to get to in a second, is should you rent or should you buy? So that's kind of what the market is doing. We haven't seen a sharp decline in home prices. You can find some people who are willing to sell. And if you're an avid investor or deal hunter, you might be looking for people who need to sell their house. But most people aren't trying to sell, or they're not in a pickle where they're selling, a 2.5% interest rate. They just don't need to. And I myself have offered on houses well under asking. I do that. I know people don't like it, but it's the way to get a good deal. And I've offered on houses that have been sitting on the market for months, and the realtor just says, hey, they don't need to sell, they don't want to take your offer, they're okay with waiting. And I would wager to say Texas as well is that a lot of these people are just kind of sitting on their mortgage rates, so they're not really having to sell. And that full circle influences the prices of homes. So we're gonna get to next is the cost analysis, which doesn't make more sense financially for me to buy a house now and pay the monthly payment or just rent and just keep doing that. Now, a lot of people like renting because it allows them fluidity in their lifestyle. They can just move whenever. I mean, they sign a lease, but if they need to break it, they can usually come to an agreement with the landlord, or they can keep paying out. They're only required to pay that certain amount of money for that year-long lease or 18 months or whatever it is, and then they can bounce. And a lot of people really like that. Now, why I think it makes a lot of sense to buy in Lubbock, if you can afford it, obviously, is because the price in a rental is not going to be that much different than the price of a mortgage payment, including taxes and insurance in Lubbock, and that's with current interest rates right now. Now, granted, before we get into that, you do have to have cash to put down to buy a house. That's why I'm saying not everyone has that certain amount of cash to buy down. But if you're buying a house to live in it, there are really great incentives on loans you can get. You can put as little as 3.5% down on an FHA loan and get the best interest rate offered in the market right now, which 3.5% of, let's say, $250,000. You know, I know that's a good chunk of change, but if you save up for a year or 2 years, you might be able to afford that. Something to consider. And in the long run, you're making yourself wealthier by buying, not your landlord. So let's look at a $250,000 house, 30-year fixed mortgage with 10% down at a 6.3% rate, okay? Your monthly payment will come out to principal and interest on your mortgage, $1,400. Your taxes will be around $387, and your insurance will be around $200, putting your monthly payment around $2,000 to $2,100. And these numbers are really probably conservative, but your monthly payment's gonna be around $21,000. Now, 10% down, you've still gotta bring $25,000 to closing, so you gotta be thinking about that. But if you can buy, you put the money down on the house, and then your payments are going towards getting you equity in your house. So you are paying down the house, essentially making yourself money if the market appreciation goes up and if you're able to maybe refinance your loan later for a lower interest rate. So let's stop talking about houses and get into apartments, because a lot of folks like to live in apartments and they're great. And the average cost of an apartment in Lubbock can vary drastically based on the location. However, I would say comfortably you can get a nice one-bedroom apartment for around $700. In some places, even less than that. $500 to $700, one bedroom, maybe $750. Now, if you're going on the nicer end, maybe $800, maybe $900, maybe even $1,000, maybe $1,100. Now, two-bedroom studios, the numbers are kind of correlating there. I'd say $800, $750, $950, $1,100, $1,200. Past $1,000 on the two-bedroom is a nicer, newer apartment. Those are gonna be nicer places. So there are very affordable apartments that are not in bad locations, but they're not as nice as the brand new ones. They might be 30-year-old apartments or 40-year-old apartments. And those two bedrooms are gonna be $750 to $850, maybe $900. Three bedrooms, there's not a ton of them, but they are out there. And the prices are gonna kind of go up with how big the apartment's gonna be. The most important thing we're talking about when we're talking about renting or buying is the long-term financial implications. If you rent, you're making your landlord richer, whoever that is, and Uncle Sam. You're not making yourself any richer because you're just throwing money towards your landlord and he's getting that. Now, like I said, if that's your lifestyle, if that's what you want to do, that's totally fine. A lot of people have to think about that because maybe they're only going to live somewhere for a certain amount of time and then want to bounce and move somewhere else. In that case, yeah, I would rent. But if you buy a house, you are investing in your financial future. If you plan to own the house for more than 10 years, more than 5 years, and if you want to own it for 30, as long as the life of the loan is. It is a no-brainer to me that if your monthly payments are gonna be similar to the monthly cost of rent and you can afford the down payment to purchase a house, especially in Lubbock. I wouldn't say that's the same case everywhere, like a place like Dallas where you could get a one-bedroom, or you could get a nice apartment, maybe split it with a roommate, and your monthly payments $1,000 a month. Maybe on a $2,000 apartment that's 2-bedroom, 1,500 square feet, 3-bedroom, whatever. Okay, I'm getting drenched in sweat talking to you guys about this rent versus buy thing, but I do feel very passionately about it. But in Dallas, if a house is like $500,000, well, then your mortgage payment's probably going to be like $2,500 to $3,000 and maybe not make nearly as much sense as just footing the $1,000 a month. But in Lubbock, I think if you can afford it, you can get really close to what the monthly rent would be in that house anyways. I would say a lot of people that call me and they want to move to Lubbock, a lot of people are afraid of HOAs. They don't like HOAs a lot, and I'm with you. I'm not a huge fan either. And really, in terms of amenities in Lubbock, the only main thing that you're getting if you buy in an HOA sometimes is like access to a clubhouse and a pool. You can rent a house with a pool. You could buy a house outside of an HOA with a pool, focusing on amenities like, oh, what does this neighborhood offer? A lot of people in Lubbock don't really do that. They're more so looking for what they can buy or rent and be there for a while. A lot of our tenants that live in our houses, they've lived there for more than 2 years and they like it. And we've had to go up $100 a month in rent. So from going like 22 to 23 or 23 to 24, that had to happen because our property tax taxes went up too, but you can fight those. But our insurance has gone up exponentially. And that's kind of the new normal now, is you've got to factor in all these things. Now, if you buy a house, you put your down payment down, and then hopefully you're escrowing your taxes and insurance into the cost of your principal and interest as well. So you've got the whole encompassing thing and you're paying it all off every month, which is something good to do. I think another thing that can happen with some folks who decide to rent as opposed to buy is that they maybe are coming from out of town and out of state. They find a rental that they think is nice and they may get it and they may overpay for it. And a lot of times in the rental world in Lubbock, I will say that realtors don't make hardly any commission on rentals in Lubbock. So it's more of controlled. The leasing is more controlled by property managers as opposed to real estate agents. So if you see something on Zillow, you do want to make sure that the area that you're renting in is solid and is going to be robust and good enough for you to want to live there. Because I think, and I've seen it before, a lot of people see, oh, this rental's $800 a month and it's a house. And then they get there and they're like, this has been a nightmare. I don't like this neighborhood. I hate living here. And it's like, yeah, you do want to do your research on where you're going, obviously. And feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. I'd be happy to point you in the right direction. I've got a great company that I refer rental leads to, and don't hesitate to reach out to me in that regard. I would say that the potential drawbacks to buying or renting exclusively would be, it probably doesn't make sense for you to buy a place if you're not going to live there for a very long time to pay a premium price on it. If you know you're not going to be in Lubbock for that long, I probably would just stick to renting. I don't know if I would buy. Well, actually, I would buy just because I love buying real estate. And I believe in the Lubbock market and economy so much that I think in the next 15 years, if you buy a house, slam dunk, barring some unforeseen disasters that could occur that nobody can control. If you're gonna live in Lubbock for 1 year, maybe 2, I would probably just rent. I don't know if it makes sense to buy for you and throw out that $30,000 that you would need for a down payment, as opposed to just keeping that money liquid in your pocket, in the bank, and then and giving your landlord $2,000 a month or whatever, $1,500 a month. Now, you can get a really good 3-bedroom, 2-bath duplex in Lubbock, brand new almost, for like $1,500 a month. That's kind of the going rate for new duplexes, 1,500 square feet, 1,300 square feet. Those are really nice. If I was renting in Lubbock, that's probably what I would do. I would go find a duplex in a nice part of town and rent one of those sides out, because I think those are awesome. They're also great investments to buy. I keep going back to buying. It's a multifaceted issue. There's a lot going on. You need to consider your own financial prowess. You need to consider your own financial position when making the decision to rent or buy. And you really need to think about, am I going to be here for a long time? Does it make sense to start just putting my $2,000 a month, $1,500 a month, whatever the mortgage payment is, into my own house? Or am I okay with giving that to a landlord? That is something that I would do a lot of research on. I would do a lot of digging on. Watch my videos. I got a plethora of videos about Lubbock real estate in general. And I get it. I think it's kind of a tough video because there's a philosophical argument here between renting and buying. And a lot of people are just very much on the side of renting. And like me, myself, it's hard to convince you to rent because I am very much on the side of buying. And I know you're probably watching this video right now going, well, you make real estate commission from the sales of if people buy, so of course you're going to convince them to buy. Duh. That's why I'm doing these videos. Like, wow, you're a wizard. but also to inform you guys, and it helps. And I've helped a countless number of you guys move to Lubbock, and I love it. It's my living. And if you're interested in moving to Lubbock, like I said, my number's right here. Give me a ring-a-ding-ding. I got an email in the description below. You can email me anytime. That actually works a little bit better. Text, we can set up a calendar meeting so you can meet me over Zoom. You can get on my calendar and set a meeting on Zoom on an available time that I have. I think when you're approaching real estate, it's not a short-term investment unless you're buying something, flipping it, and selling it. Real estate should be a long-term investment. So you should think long-term about what's gonna make the most sense for you. Whether your career changes, you have to move to a different city. That's gonna be tough, stressful. Here's another thing about buying a house that isn't sexy and not a lot of fun. Things are gonna go wrong. The AC is gonna go out, the sink's gonna explode, the toilet's gonna blow up, poop's gonna be coming out of the, just kidding. That might not happen, it could. That cost does come out of your pocket unless you get a home warranty, which is a really good idea as well. See, there are things around, you can get a home warranty for like $700 a month, they'll come out and fix it for you, whatever. But if you rent, the landlord's gonna have to foot that bill. So it could save you money in the long run, but I would say of the houses that we own in Lubbock, which we own about 14 of them, the problems that we have on houses are air conditioning stuff, some plumbing things. Nothing has been drastic, nothing has been crazy major, no foundation issues. So if you buy the house right and get things fixed from the seller before you buy it, then you're not gonna run into as many issues as you would if you just buy something blind and go in and don't have those things remediated. So there's always a solution. But yes, if you do decide to rent a house or an apartment, your landlord will be taking care of the cost of your AC going out, your toilet breaking, wiggling, jiggling, doing whatever it's doing. The landlord will foot that bill. And that's a huge thing that people factor in. So I can't fault people who want to rent for something like that, because that is a very influential decision on whether you should rent or buy. However, like I just said, if you're buying a house, get the seller to get the house inspected, which I will 100% have organized and scheduled for you. You're gonna get the house inspected. You're gonna know everything that's wrong with it. You're gonna walk through all of it. It's gonna be grand. You're gonna ask the seller to fix a bunch of stuff. If they say no, we outie. We bouncing. Bye-bye. Just kidding, sometimes. It's negotiating. You wanna find a win-win for both parties. I personally love the Lubbock market. I like buying rental properties there. I think it makes sense for me. I believe in where the town's going in the next decade. And that's kind of my investment strategy. Secondary markets that are growing, that I believe in long term. I just think it makes sense. That's why I want to buy as opposed to renting. Now, each have their pros and cons, ebbs and flows. I hope this video helped out a little bit, but in the future, you know where I'm at. Give me a call, email, boom.